Full strength. Full strength is returning. I can sense it. Not only in a mental sort of perspective, but also physically. So yesterday, that was a hefty back day, and that was good. I did a little bit more volume. If you didn't watch that one, I'm gonna change my back training from just thinking back to really kind of segmenting lat work on its own and more mid-back work on its own, which that's nothing new. I do pull downs and rows, but just making sure I really do each on their own. So almost looking at back more like how I look at my arm training. All right, I'm gonna hit buys, kill them, then move on to triceps, or vice versa, or a combination of the two back and forth. There's really there's a lot of ways to go about it, and this is one thing that kind of irks me, and it's just the idea that you need everything perfectly planned out before you even come into the gym. We've all heard the guys talk about hardcore bodybuilders and the old training videos where it's I had my workout planned. I knew I'm running through my workout the night before in my head before I go to sleep, and then I wake up and I make it happen. That sounds pretty cool. I'm not saying that that's not a good approach, but I kind of lean a little bit more into the just side of, okay, how am I feeling today? I don't mean mentally like, oh, do I feel like bringing it? I mean, literally, how does my elbow feel today? How does my forearm feel today? My bicep feel today? And not only that, but what did I do last arm day? What did my last chest day look like? Am I still residually feeling something from that chest day? There's a lot of variables at play. Did I sleep well? Maybe I freaking pushed a door open in a weird way, or I remember. This was probably the most annoying thing that happened to me for at least a few weeks back when I was in school. I got this electric bike. I think Mark has it now. I think he's there was like a thing where we couldn't find the key, but either way, this thing had like two 500 I think megawatt motors. Milliwatt? I forget the unit, but two 500 something motors on both sides, and I'm like 250 at the time, bulked. I was a little smaller, but 250-pound Sam on this electric bike, and the thing could go 30, 30 on flat ground, and then it would get up to 40 going downhill. But that was kind of getting a little bit dangerous. But I never crashed until this day. Of course, I'm late to a class, and I'm just zipping on this electric bike, which the only reason I got it was because I spoiled myself the year before, and I tried one of the electric scooters, like the birds where people, they throw them off bridges and stuff. But as soon as I did that, I was freaking hooked. But I'm zipping through, the little cross sidewalks in between the buildings, and I'm taking a turn like a freaking Formula One motocross guy, really freaking leaning. And I think if it was a hot sunny day, I probably could have kept traction through the turn, but it was kind of wet, and they had just put salt down on all the sidewalks, which I did not see. So 260-pound Sam, tires slip out from under me, and I just smack my forearm on the ground, rip my jeans. They wouldn't fit me now, but at the time that was kind of a loss. And my forearm was just freaking tweaked, So get back to what I was saying. I had to adjust my training. I freaking just smacked my elbow. Damn, this thing hurts. Well, I better not do this kind of tricep extension because it's hurting me. I better change it up and do something else. So obviously, when you have a little injury like that, it's very apparent that you need to adapt your training. But I think it's a little bit less, in your face clear that if I did rope extensions, skull crushers, machine dips, 4 days ago when I hit arms last, if that's, the workout that this guy really likes, what are the odds that he's going to come in today and say, man, I'm feeling good? Let's bust out Old Faithful. Rope, skull crusher, dips. And then the loop continues. You know, like I really wish I knew the specifics of somebody's training when they comment or say something about how their split is boring, because I'm almost certain that the people who say that, like, oh, I'm so bored of push-pull legs, or I'm so bored of, you know, whatever they're doing, like an Arnold split or like a push-pull leg Arnold combo, you're just whatever. I'd love to see the workouts on like a lift by lift by lift basis, because if you're doing the exact same workout, well, for one, I think it's going to be a little bit boring, but it's just not going to be new. You know, it's not stimulating. You got to change it up. I'm not saying you have to shock the muscle, but I want to hit whatever I'm hitting in at least a pretty different way than I did last time. Now, of course, sometimes I'm going to do a repeat day. Like, if I'm really feeling incline dumbbell, and I did incline dumbbell last chest day, I might still do incline dumbbell, you know. So I'm not saying it's if you come into the gym and you do 2 workouts that were the same, you know, Monday and then repeat it on Thursday, that it won't work. But as a general idea, you know, I want to change it up. Not only for the I was about to say sake and fact at the same time. The faked. Not only for the sake of, you know, actually changing it up, making sure that I hit everything in different ways, but also it's more fun. You know, I don't get bored of my split. I never have, because the workouts are always a little bit different. So that does give you a little bit more of a, you know, free form canvas that you're working with. So as a beginner, it might make a little more sense to be much more regimented with your workouts, so it's easier to track your progressive overload, because you want to come into the gym stronger every week than you were last week. And in the first, you know, year or so of training, definitely in the first 6 months of training, that's a pretty feasible goal. You can definitely come into the gym stronger every week for the first 6 months of your training, assuming you're, you know, training pretty hard and pushing yourself and, you know, getting decent recovery. But over time, you know, I don't keep a log. I don't have a I guess I do kind of keep a log. I keep a video training log, but I don't have like a book where I write out every set and every weight for every set. So that might, you know, you might say, well, Sam, are you even tracking your progressive overload? How do you know that you're, you know, pushing it a little bit further, at least, you know, in an off season? Dieting is, you know, kind of a different situation. But yeah, now's the beginning of an off season. How the hell am I going to make sure I keep getting stronger? You know, and making sure that the sets that I do are heftier and more serious week by week by week. And, you know, I don't feel like I need to track it in a booklet, right? Because I've gone up and down in terms of body fat and strength, and then, you know, leanness and, let's not say weakness, let's just say lack of strength to make it sound a little bit better, like in a dieting phase. But I've got a pretty good gauge, you know, and I think this is something that's under spoken about. Obviously, it's, you know, kind of specific as a topic, but just the idea that if you every lift, you know, let's say you have a decent split, you're doing push-pull legs, rest, whatever it may be. If you come into the gym, okay, I've got a heavy working set planned for chest, you know. This is my first few, and in terms of progressive overload, you can really only kind of see that in your first few hard sets. I'm not concerned about how strong my chest is on set number 8. At that point, my chest is destroyed. I'm just trying to get a really good pump and like finish it off. But in the beginning of the workout, you know, that's where it matters a little bit more. So I'm going to say, all right, let's take my squats, for example. You know, once I start squatting, right now, barbell squats, I think a real good set of failure I could hit, probably maybe 4 plates for 8. Yeah, probably 4 for 8 I think I could get right now. I don't know, maybe more, maybe less. I still gotta, you know, ease into it. But we'll see. Let's assume that right now I can do 4 plates for 8. Well, if I really do that, and I actually bring it, and I get past that 8th rep and I go for a 9th and I fail and I have to put the bar on the safeties. Well, what was more important? That I knew a specific number on a piece of paper, or that I knew, okay, I'm capable of getting 8. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to go a little further, and I'm going to go for one more. So I'm going to take my heavier working sets as hard as I can. And if you do that, come home, recover, eat your food, take a few days of doing your other workouts before you come back for another leg day. Well, that whole process, you should now be stronger afterward, right? Because you've hit a really hard-ass set of squats to failure. You've recovered. Assuming you're eating in a mild surplus, you should have over-recovered. So now, you should be able to do 4 plates for 10, Or, I'm not saying it's like a direct 1-to-1 like that. It might be faster or slower. But you've done 4 for 8 before. You really pushed it. That was as hard as you could go. So if on your, let's just say majority of your working sets, if you really push it, come home, eat, recover, come back, well then if you really push it again, those metrics should increase. The weight should maybe feel a little bit lighter, so either you'll do more reps with that same working weight, or you'll do the same number of reps but with a little more weight, something along those lines. So it's kind of just having a training setup that results in increasing weight, simply because that's the almost required for you to actually hit failure. So if your bar is serious, hefty failure around a certain rep range, you should know during your warm-up sets or your feeler reps, like, all right, 3 plates on this squat, I'm not going to fail at 10 reps. I got to go a little bit heavier, 365, or something like that. So rather than trying to track in a book or like a training log, like, okay, I did 2 plates for 10 on flat bench last week. All right, this week I'm going to do 2 plates and a 5 on both sides for 10. And I just didn't come up with that training approach. Like, I didn't have a starting strength or like a however many week block of like a certain training program that I followed, where it kind of manually adjusts what your working weights should be. It's kind of like, I know how strong I am in the moment, I'm going to push it as hard as I can. So if you're like that, then you've almost got no choice but to progressively overload, So it's kind of more on you to keep your effort up, rather than try to chase like a number that you've kind of calculated beforehand, which I'm not saying is not a good approach, of course. Like, there's a reason why I'm not even a power lifter, and I know what starting strength is, right? There's a reason why it's known, because a lot of these programs actually, I'm sure, freaking work, but it's just kind of a difference in approach, So I'm more concerned with making sure I kill it on a set-by-set basis. And if you do that, well, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen if you come into the gym every week, or every day of every week, or most days of every week, and kill it, then go home and eat your food and recover? Right? You got no choice but to make some gains. It's almost an impossibility, freaking not to. But yeah, well, I'm not even sure what this arm day is going to look like. Obviously, I'm going to go nuts, but let's take a moment. I feel really fresh. Like, I got a good night's rest. So let's think about this. I did biceps first last time. We'll see. How about we get the breakdown once I'm in there and we start warming up, because then I'll have a little more information. Because what if I'm warming up and I say, whoa, my freaking forearm is, for whatever reason, like really tender. I might have to chill on a biceps. I don't think that's the case, but you never freaking know. So I think nothing else to say. Let's just get freaking started. Oh my God. Heavy rope will be a perfect freaking start. So 190, I did 230 for a feeler rep. That was a little bit too much. You know, I want to go heavy enough I can feel it, of course. But this isn't a straight bar. You know, with a rope, even if I am going to kind of push it weight-wise, I still have to be able to get all the way down to the bottom and then some by really pulling the cable, or I guess the rope handles apart. You know, you're not really pulling anything apart with a regular straight bar. That's more so just the amount of tension you're getting through your triceps. And we'll get there, but after this. So, hefty rope first, and I want these to burn. Yeah. Okay. One more of those at least. Maybe two. You know, we'll see. One more of these. The camera is supposed to move, but I forgot to hit the button. Whoops. Okay. Oh, shit. All right. Let's do some overhead now. That's enough of the rope. Haven't used this machine for a little while, but it's time to throw it back in the mix. So you can kind of recreate this just by doing or putting an EZ bar cable around like shoulder height and like flipping over and putting your butt up against the cable bar. This does make it a little easier. All right. Yeah. Two. One more. Same weight, same everything. Let's roll the sleeves up for this one. Okay. Two. Two. Yeah. Two. Cha. Holy crap. All right. Let's move on to a regular push down with an easy bar. Even just after one feeler rep, I'm nearly convinced this might be the last set. You know, I'll see how I feel after I've done it, of course. But yeah, that combination of heavy rope into overhead extensions worked out pretty freaking well. So I think let's just throw the stack around and maybe do it twice. We'll see. Two. Yeah. 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 Two. Okay. Whew. Let's do one more. Let's do one more, and then move on to curls. Oof. Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay. Let's start some curls now. Triceps are totally done. So there's no way I could do this with the 60s. The 50s is right at the cusp of heavy, but not too heavy. So incline bench, pretty steep, probably like 60 degrees. I don't know, something like that. But I'm gonna really suck my shoulder blades back so that the only thing moving my biceps, or moving the weight, is my biceps. With a standing curl, you can kind of get your shoulders into it and do a little bit of a swing. This is a good isolation. Obviously all curls are in isolation, but this one especially. Holy shit. Okay. One more of those. Yeah, that was really good. All right. Okay. Whew. Whew. Okay. Let's do something a little lighter. Move on to some preachers. This is a good preacher setup. So I'm not going too heavy. This is 150 with both arms. Eventually I'll work my way up, but
But especially after those 2 sets of recline curls, or whatever you want to call them, this will be a good faster pace squeezing movement. So what I mean by that is I want to really get some oomph into the top of every rep. Like, I'm not just going through reps. At the top, I want to hit the maximum range of motion I can get. My arm's basically running into itself, and then put a little extra tension in. And if you do that, and you really actually think about doing that during your sets versus just kind of doing reps, you'll definitely feel a difference. Okay. Ooh, okay. One more a little lighter. Let's do 130 instead of 150. There we go. Same thing, but I'll hold the first few reps since it's a little lighter. Ooh. Okay. Okay. Let's just do a regular standing alternating dumbbell curl next. The 45s are calling my name. Ooh. Okay. Shit, I think that's all biceps have. Yeah. Arms done a little earlier than I freaking thought. Let's find some lighting and discuss. All right, that is what I most certainly call a pump. So, usually that's pretty obvious. But that was good. I feel like I can actually finally bring it again. Especially on the sets of triceps, like doing the stack as a finisher and not feeling tender elbows from a steep deficit. That's cool. That is, let's just say that's very cool. And then, I wonder if biceps are a little bit residually fatigued from back yesterday. That's certainly not an impossibility. So maybe that's why I only felt like I needed to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total sets. Maybe that little bit of residual fatigue kind of, let's just say, fast-tracked my biceps to getting fully pumped. But who really freaking cares about the specifics? Let's see how we're looking. Oh my goodness. All right, one more front lat spit for the road, and then we can get out of here. We're not even like we're not even 5 weeks in, but this certainly feels like a substantially bulked arm day. Like this volume of just additional blood flow into my arms, I have not felt for not years, this prep wasn't that long, but for months, which feels like freaking years. But now arms is done, very well stimulated, I would say. So let's go get some cardio finished. All right, it's become just a little teeny bit gloomy out. I was hoping I was going to be able to get some post-workout UV, which, I don't know. I mean, you tell me. All I'm hearing is UV exposure in general is totally going to cook your skin in the long run. Kind of the fear-mongering. Not exactly fear-mongering, right? But every dermatologist is saying, do not even minor sun exposure, sunscreen all the way, And we've seen the photos of like a trucker who's been driving for like 60 years of his left arm versus the right arm, because he's got the left arm out here getting hit by the sun every day, and I mean it's pretty distinct. But you need some UV, man, right? It's got some freaking positive effects. I'm not saying you need to sun your whats like that one trend from a couple of, actually, was that years ago that we were oh man, yeah, it's crazy how many phases there's been so far. But getting some sun's good within reason. I'd say I guess my rule of thumb is I just don't want to burn, but I'll get a bit of a glow back. It'll just take a while as we get into the summertime. But what was I about to say? I had some kind of topic, but now I kind of forget it. Well, either way, that was a good lift, and not only in terms of like the actual doing the lift was it good. Like I think the metrics of every set was solid, but just my enjoyment, man. I maybe it's just because I dieted for so long, I'm on the rebound. This is I've said this before. You kind of have a little bit of a back and forth, like slingshot effect once you get into off-season and then dieting phases, where you diet for long enough that you get your fill of being lean, and you say, all right, I want to freaking fill up on carbs and lift extra hard, get my strength back, get some size on me again. And then you bulk long enough where you're basically sick of bulking, and you say, all right, I'm done with this, now it's time to diet. And I think it's a pretty positive kind of loop, because in either case you get to a point where now your goal has changed and you're really directed at it. But yeah, I am definitely feeling that in terms of getting back to some freaking strength. So what's it been? It's so today's the 18th. So the last show was the 27th. So it's been almost 3 weeks, a little more or less 3 weeks post show. Finally got some food in my system, and I think I'm getting there. I'm probably, I'd say as a whole system, I'm probably running about 60%. 60% of my ability to exert force. So chest, in terms of pressing, is going to need a little bit of time to get used to, a lot of load like through my shoulders. Legs, same thing, but I can already tell they're coming back up. And I'm not like obsessed with strength. I'm not trying to hit certain numbers on sets purely for the number's sake. Like, it feels pretty cool. I'm probably going to feel pretty cool when I can squat 5 plates for like a really good set. But the point isn't
to lift those 5 plates. The point is, I want to do a really heavy, hard set of squats to failure. So just to facilitate that goal, I'll have to use more weight, if you sort of feel me, you know. If all I really cared about was getting stronger, well, then I'd be a freaking power lifter. And I would never diet, because dieting down would be counterintuitive to my goal of strength building. And I'd just be kind of like relatively perma-bulked all the time, you know, doing strength phases. But it's definitely an angle to look at in terms of an off season, just because as you get bigger, you will get stronger, and vice versa. They're pretty, I mean, not to say strong again, but they're pretty strongly correlated, especially as a beginner. I mean, it does start to, you know, have a disconnect over time. Like, I'm never going to bench 5 plates. It's just not even going to freaking happen. At least, definitely not with my current training style. So just because I might get however many pounds bigger doesn't mean I'll get that much stronger in direct correlation. So it starts to separate once you get to a point. But especially as a beginner, I mean, within the first few years, as you get larger, your strength is just going to improve, you know. Physically having more muscle fibers at your disposal, plus having a better kind of ability to contract them, you know, having that not exactly a better mind-muscle connection, but more so just, I don't know, it's kind of a little bit of like, I want to say grit, like the ability to push yourself. Like if you take a total beginner and you say, you know, try to lift this much weight on a machine press, you know, let the guy warm up, he's not going to hurt himself. But if you gradually increase weight on the pin, he'll get to a point where he just can't move it. It's just not going to happen. But 2 weeks later, if he was, you know, training hard and getting used to physically pushing himself, well, now, even though he's not any noticeable amount bigger, he could probably push that weight. You know, he's reached his sort of, he's got a better ability to really exert force to his full potential, if you kind of follow me there. So, by that logic, if you lift slightly heavier weights, or you at least push yourself to do heavier sets, and heavier sets doesn't always mean heavier, it could just mean the same weight for more reps. That's usually how I kind of go about it. If I can do, I mean, what was today? I could do the 50s on those recline curls for, what was that first set? Almost 10? Actually, I think the first set was a little bit more than 10. So if I could do that for 10 or so, let's just say 10, I don't remember exactly, then next arm day, if I do that movement again in the beginning of the workout when I'm fresh, well, just because I think I might be stronger now, doesn't mean I want to jump in weight. Maybe I'll just do the 50 again, but this time get 12 or maybe 11 or, you know, whatever. And if I get a little bit more reps, that's usually my indicator of, all right, I'll go up in weight a little bit. Like getting back to the squat reference I was saying on the way here or on the way to the gym, I'm not just going to adjust my weight up arbitrarily. My cue is usually like, okay, let's say I could do 4 plates for 8, like I was saying. If in 2 weeks I can do 4 plates for 12, that's a pretty strong indicator that, all right, I can probably try 455 for this next set, or for this next lift. Try 455, get 9 reps. Next week, do 455 again, see what I get, you know? So that's usually how I kind of jump in weight in terms of my heavier working sets, just to make sure that they, you know, actually gradually move up in intensity. But it's not purely for the weight's sake. It's more so the, you know, just keeping us, I was about to say steady. Steady's not the right word, but a consistently new stimulus, right? So even though I might be doing the same set of squats, if it's a little bit heavier, or if it's the same weight with an extra rep or 2 or however many, right, that tells me I'm bringing it. So as long as the scale also matches, then more weight the better. More weight in the gym, more weight on your frame, physically more weight of food, because you're gradually going to eat more. It's a lot of weight involved. That's for freaking certain. But I'm hungry, so plan is to get some sort of meal I'm not exactly sure what. I might do a little breakfast for lunch and go for oatmeal with egg whites. Not, combined. This oatmeal and ground beef, I'll combine those. Oatmeal and eggs, that's a little bit too funky. Those are going to stay separate. I think that'll do me good. Edit this thing together, finish my cardio on the bike, and then get ready for a few more meals. I'm not going to feel like I have to push food for a little while. For me to just eat at maintenance, I can already tell I'm kind of starting to get some more size, and not exactly like contractile tissue size. That's a very slow process. But even just getting used to being fed and being able to walk around with a full fed weight, that's a pretty good feeling on its own. So I'd say probably another 2 weeks or so of this, eating around maintenance phase is when I'll probably see my weight really balance out, because now I'm probably getting close to going from that flat dieted weight up to now a full carved up, like fed weight. But it's kind of a little bit of a, up and down, back and forth. So once that weight stabilizes, which this morning I think I was like 241 or something. I don't know. I didn't weigh myself this morning. I weighed myself yesterday at 241, but I forgot to do it today. So by the time that sort of balances out, that'll be my beginning of this off-season weight. Because, I wouldn't, even though, 3 weeks ago I had weighed in on the check-in scale at 227. That's a water-depleted, dry, flat weigh-in. I'm 241 right now. Do you really think I gained 14 pounds of lean tissue? No, not exactly. Just 14 pounds of intramuscular water and carbs, and just, going from flat to fed. So that weight doesn't count. That's fluff weight. That's just in and out fluids. That's not real tissue. So once I get to a baseline fed weight, then I can actually start to measure the changes. But I started tracking my weight on little Google Sheets like a week ago. So right now, with only like 6 data points, not really much of a graph. I can't see a trend yet. But in 2 months, in 4 months, in 6 months, however long this off season ends up being, I should be able to see some pretty steady upward changes. And by tracking it, I'll be able to notice if I start to plateau. If 3 months down the line I keep stepping on the scale at 255 or whatever, and I'm 255 every freaking morning, what does that tell me? Well, shit, man, you're not growing. You're training hard. I assume I'm going to be training hard in 6 months or 3 months or whatever. So the training's probably going good. Probably sleeping pretty well. What do I need to change? More calories. And likely more carbs is probably going to be the answer. But I'm not going to have to worry about that for a little while. I do not see a plateau over the horizon for quite a few weeks. So until then, I just get to enjoy eating, almost eating in like a graze. Like, for me to just eat when I'm hungry is putting me at a proper calorie intake. So that is freaking solid. But let's maybe I'm kind of sneaking. Just sort of did like a left turn sneak through the yellow, if you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's all I got. So I will see you for some legs tomorrow.